Is Alex Cora in the hot seat after the Boston Red Sox recent bad loss? Find out on today's Locked On Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's free, so you might as well continue to tune in because Locked On is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on today's show, but bad news for the Red Sox again on this Tuesday as they suffered a very painfully bad loss to the Tampa Bay Rays last night by a score of 16-1. And this is just one of those days where you just have to say the Red Sox didn't have it. And every team has very bad days like that. But the frustrating thing about it is that the Red Sox haven't been playing well overall. So it amplified what a loss like that means a little bit more, because say this loss happened, but the Red Sox had just strung together 8 wins, for example, before that in a row. Then this game, people would say, all right, it's a really bad loss and we just didn't have it tonight. It is what it is. Move on to tomorrow. The problem with the Red Sox, though, is that it's not as easy as that, because they dropped 3 of 4 against the Toronto Blue Jays and dropped 2 of 3 against the Chicago White Sox before heading into this series against Tampa Bay. So they just aren't playing good baseball right now. And to go into a game like they did last night and just have a terrible outing overall is not ideal. I'm going to be going over Tanner Houck's start that he made on the mound, as well as who is underachieving on this team. What exactly is going wrong? But first of all, the pending question right now among a lot of Red Sox fans is Alex Cora in the hot seat? Now, we know a lot of times when a team struggles, it falls on the manager. The manager is the one who makes the daily decisions, and he is the one who ultimately takes blame when the team isn't playing well, because he's responsible for those clubhouse vibes. Now, let me read you word for word what the definition of a manager in Major League Baseball is. Field managers, who are often simply just known as the manager, are responsible for writing out the daily lineup and making in-game tactical decisions. Examples include pitching changes and decisions regarding pinch hitting, pinch running, and defensive replacements. Logistical things during the game. So if he likes a matchup better, he could throw in Romy Gonzalez to pinch hit for Wilyer Abreu, for example. Often viewed as a face of his franchise, managers also play a crucial role in interacting with the media before and after games and managing the atmosphere in the clubhouse. Managers are often former players, as said experience can help them relate to current players by virtue of shared experiences and familiarity with the inner workings of the clubhouse setting. But even with this in mind, managers still take input from the front office, scouts, and data analysts in an effort to make optimal game management decisions. Managers, also commonly referred to as skippers, are also responsible for issuing instant replay challenges, and they will occasionally argue with the umpiring staff in protest of a call on the field. Managers are known to insert themselves between an upset player and an umpire in order to prevent the player from being ejected from the game. That is word for word, essentially the overarching job description of a manager in Major League Baseball. Handling in-game decisions, managing the daily lineup, knowing who's going to be available that day and who's not, and making sure that the game goes as smoothly as possible. Sometimes their in-game decisions will backfire, other times they won't. He has no idea of knowing if a pitcher is going to be on that day or not. He has no idea if a pitcher is going to have a bad day, but he does know if a pitcher is physically available to pitch that day. For example, with the bullpen, if a guy has been overused a lot lately, or he just wakes up experiencing soreness that day, he might not be available to throw, in which case the manager has to get creative and throw somebody else in a spot where that player might pitch. The manager is responsible for those in-game decisions. What the manager is not responsible for is building the roster. Alex Cora did not create the Boston Red Sox roster. The front office created the Red Sox roster. Now, the Red Sox roster is not as flawed as you might think it is based on how they're playing right now. The Red Sox have a ton of talent on this roster. The execution has been the problem. And the execution comes down to other people on the coaching staff. Why do they have other coaches on the staff? Because of the fact that they focus on specific areas that they are experts in to help the team improve as a whole. That's why you have certain coaches like the pitching coach, the hitting coach, the bench coach, assistant hitting coaches, first base coach, third base coach, bullpen coach, game planning and run prevention coach, bullpen catcher, and catching instructor / bullpen catcher. Those are all roles within the Red Sox coaching staff, and Alex Cora obviously being the manager. Now, Alex Cora is not responsible for the hitting approach, for example. He's not responsible for telling the Red Sox players to go out there and change as a whole their hitting approach. He can make a suggestion, but the hitting coach, it's his responsibility to execute the logistics of the plate approach that the team as a whole is going after because of the fact that that is their area of expertise. So before pointing fingers at Alex Cora, why shouldn't we be pointing fingers at Peter Fatsi, the hitting coach? Now, the Red Sox in Monday night's game against the Tampa Bay Rays, they had 14 strikeouts in the game as a team. Now, granted, the game was over by the third inning, but that doesn't mean you just completely take the feet off the gas. And this is not abnormal. The Red Sox have had double-digit strikeouts in pretty much every game this year so far as a team. And that is very concerning. Now, when you go into the underarching numbers of their offense, their walk rate has improved from last year. They walked 8% of their at-bats in 2024. So far this year, they've walked in 10% of their at-bats. So they have been a little bit more patient at the plate. Last year, they struck out 25% of the time. This year, it's about the same rate so far, 24.8% of the time the Red Sox are striking out. So the strikeout rate has not improved, but the walk rate has. So in the past, the strikeout rate was probably due to the Red Sox hitters being a little bit too aggressive. So Pete Fatsi said, okay, we're going to take a different approach and we're going to start trying to be more selective at the plate when it comes to what we're swinging at. Now the problem is they seem to have gone a little bit of the opposite way and they're too selective. So they're overthinking their at-bats and they're striking out at the same rate as they were. So progress, not really. And that goes back to Pete Fatsi. Like I said, Alex Cora does not run what the specific other coaches on his coaching staff are supposed to be running. So the offense continues to be a problem. Point finger at Pete Fatsi. The infield defense in particular continues to be a problem. The Red Sox only made one error in last night's game, but they made 5 errors in a game against the White Sox, and it cost them tons of runs. And I saw this narrative last year where their defense was losing them a lot of games, and that was supposed to be improved this year. Why hasn't it improved? And I don't feel like it's the players, because you have a Gold Glove player at third base in Alex Bregman, and then you have Trevor Story at shortstop, another guy who is known to be one of the best defenders in the sport. Why is it that those two players continuously make errors? Why don't we look at the infield instructor, Jose Flores? Is he responsible for all of the errors in the infield? It's a lot of logistics here, and the way that the Red Sox are going about things that are just not working. They're not able to make a lot of the routine plays in the infield, and that's very much a concern too. So what do the Red Sox need to do? Probably replace some of their coaches, but I don't think Alex Cora is the one who needs to be replaced. I think he's a great manager in terms of his ability to really understand the game of baseball and really connect with these players. And the most important thing that a manager can do is connect with his players on a more personal level outside of the sport. And it is the job of the coaching staff around him who have certain areas that they are experts in to execute in those ways. Now, it's only mid-April, so obviously we are still incredibly early in the season, so patterns may or may not continue, but the patterns that we have seen in terms of the defense and the offensive approach have been a pattern since last season and even a little bit the season before. So because of the fact that there is a relatively bigger sample size with those, we can start to infer that coaching is probably a problem. The Red Sox need a coaching shakeup for sure. Now, listen to a couple stats that I wanted to give you. So the Red Sox are 6th in the majors with 78 runs scored in 18 games. That's an average of 4.5 runs a game, but 31 of those runs, which is 40.2%, came in 2 games when they scored 13 runs versus the Cardinals on April 4th and 18 runs versus the Cardinals on April 6th. That one series, their bats were showing up a lot. But other than that, the bats have almost been non-existent. So the Red Sox have scored 46 runs in its other 15 games, which is an average of just 3.1 runs per game, with an offense that's supposed to be very strong. So that is a major problem. This is something that needs to be addressed. And the biggest thing to address and look at for me is the coaching staff. Make some changes to the infield instruction, make some changes to the hitting approach and see if it allows guys to be more successful in those areas, because this is a Boston Red Sox team that is a lot more talented than what their record shows right now and what their in-game results are showing. And I truly believe that with the right instruction that's going to help elevate their game, this team could take off at some point. I just feel like they have the wrong people in there from a coaching standpoint, and they need to figure out how to get back on track in terms of having coaches who are going to elevate these guys and continue to make them better, not make them continue to struggle game after game. How much more needs to happen in order for them to make coaching changes? It really should have happened already, but the fact that it hasn't yet better happen soon, because they need to change something major, because they cannot continue to keep going through the same pattern of having the same problems over and over again that is costing them games, and have the Red Sox make zero changes. So that's definitely something I'm going to be looking out for, that I really hope the Red Sox do address here this week, quite frankly. Coming up, another issue during this game against the Rays was Tanner Houck. Is he allergic to that team? I'll be answering that next. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From 3-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. You will become addicted to FanDuel if you start using it. So don't say I didn't warn you, but you'll be addicted in a good way, because the more you use it, the more money you will win, because it gives you so many different options to bet. So download the app today. Is Alex Cora in the hot seat after this Boston Red Sox struggling start to the season? My answer is no, because the Red Sox did just extend him over the summer. I think they truly believe that he is the man for the job when it comes to a manager. And I have just heard from too many players around the Red Sox organization that he is a great players coach. And that's something that is very important that I don't think you get in every manager across the sport. And I think there's more off the field that Cora brings than we're noticing. Granted, he has some questionable on field decisions that he will make, as in his bullpen management. Sure, that could be an area that we can critique about Alex Cora in terms of questionable decisions that he makes. But overall, I do think that he is a good manager, and I think that it all is being pinned back on him because he's an easy person to blame, when you really have to break down all of the different areas of the Boston Red Sox and who does what for this team in order to figure out who is the root of the problem. And the root of the problem certainly has not fully been the pitching, but the pitching has not been up to par with what it should be. And one of those pitchers that has been underperforming is Tanner Houck, who massively struggled in Monday night's game. He came in and threw just 2 1/3 innings, giving up 10 hits and 11 earned runs. He walked 2, struck out 1, and gave up 2 home runs. And it wasn't even that he was just giving away free passes because he only walked a couple. The problem was just that he was getting hit very hard. He had nothing last night. And this isn't the first time that Houck has struggled against the Rays lately, because in his final spring training start versus the Rays, he went 3 2/3, giving up 12 hits, 10 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and 1 home run, compared to his line last night of 2 1/3, 10 earned runs, 10 hits, 2 walks, 1 strikeout, and 2 home runs. So very similar outings, those two. And I feel like Tanner Houck just might never want to pitch against the Tampa Bay Rays again, because obviously he does struggle against them. And it's not something that he's particularly proud of or happy about, but he was not able to go into the game for very long at all last night because there was just nothing there that he had. And the Rays were just hitting everything that he was throwing their way. He has a 9.16 ERA over 18 2/3 innings, giving up 19 earned runs in 4 starts after posting an 11.20 ERA over 13 2/3 innings, 17 earned runs in 4 spring training starts. So the writing was certainly on the wall for Houck to struggle. He had a great outing in his last one against Toronto, but that seemed like a fluke because his first couple starts weren't great. Then he has this really good start last week, and we hope that maybe he's starting to bounce back. But then he goes and throws the way that he did last night, and we feel like, okay, was his really solid start just a fluke, and he just happened to have really good stuff that night? But honestly, I talked about this on the podcast a little bit, how he struggled in the second half of the season last year. Ever since the All-Star break last year, he started to decline. And I worried that that was going to be something that was going to be a longer-term issue for him. And certainly enough, he is not performing to the level in which the Red Sox need him to. And it's a serious concern because when the Red Sox built out this rotation for this season, they assumed that they could rely on Tanner Houck. Obviously, they went and got Garrett Crochet to pitch at the top of the rotation, and he was their big offseason acquisition that they were proud of. They got Walker Buehler to help boost the middle / maybe bottom of the rotation, but they assumed that Tanner Houck was going to be a solid number 2 behind Garrett Crochet. And like I keep saying, it's only mid-April. We still have time for him to clean things up a little bit. But as of right now, Tanner Houck is not performing, and that really impacts the Red Sox rotation and makes it significantly less competitive than what we thought on paper that it would be. And that is highly concerning. I don't think the Red Sox banked at all on him struggling in the way that he has been. I think they assumed that he was going to go out there and be a number 2, maybe a number 3, because of the fact that he did decline a little bit in the second half last year, that maybe they thought, okay, he wouldn't perform as consistently well as he was earlier on, but he should be able to still be a durable number 3 starter. But you cannot be having the types of performances that he continues to have and expect him to be a higher end of the rotation pitcher. Now, the problem is the Red Sox don't really have any frontline starters besides Crochet. They have him as their number 1, no doubt, but then who else after that can be relied on? I mean, we don't know what Brayan Bello and Lucas Giolito are going to look like when they come back up. And Brayan Bello, that creates a lot of pressure on him to have a good season. He was looking better in the second half of the season last year. You heard from him on yesterday's show. He plans to continue to incorporate his fastball back into his arsenal this season. So hopefully he finds success doing that, because that's how he found success later in the season last year. But what I really hate about this whole situation is that now we put more pressure on Lucas Giolito to have to perform. A guy who's been away from the game for so long and is obviously eager to go out there and pitch to the best of his ability. But the problem with that is, again, because it's been a while since he's pitched in Major League Baseball, it's not fair for him to have that kind of pressure to have to deliver at that high of a level. I was hoping that the Red Sox starting rotation would be reliable enough to where he could be somebody who slots in the back end of the rotation. and be fine. But nope, now that's not the case. Now we need him to be better than that. And it's just unfortunate that Tanner Houck is underperforming in regards to being a guy who the Red Sox were supposed to rely on more than what he has been throwing as of late. And the Red Sox have to get on this. They have to figure out, hey, what is the issue with Tanner Houck and how can we fix it right now? Red Sox starters currently have the 6th best starter ERA with a 3.59 among major league teams, giving up 37 earned runs in 92 2/3 innings to start the season. Crochet has only allowed 4 earned runs in 27 innings, which is a 1.38 ERA. The other 5 Boston pitchers to make starts have allowed 33 earned runs in 65 2/3 innings, which is a 4.52 ERA. With Bayo and Giolito coming back, hopefully they can save that, but it just has not been good. Now, if you think about this pitching rotation and what encompasses it, who comes up with the pitching strategy? Andrew Bailey. He is the guy who's here to work with the pitchers. Now, when I was talking about coaches, is he somebody who we should put on the hot seat? Is he somebody who we should question in terms of his approach that he's using with the pitchers? Is it not working effectively for everybody? And Garrett Crochet, I just think, is too naturally talented to where he can be thrown into whatever system and it'll work for him because he's just that talented of a pitcher. But with certain pitchers, you need to have a pitching coach who can connect and work with the pitcher on maximizing their potential. And I look at guys like Tanner Houck and Brian Bayo, who are still figuring out their identity as starting pitchers with this team. And you need to be able to rely on Bailey to help them out. But is he doing everything that he can be doing to help them out? Or do they need to focus on trying to find somebody else to fill that role? It poses a lot of questions, but Tanner Houck's performance has definitely been a disappointment for this Red Sox team so far this season because it's something that nobody really saw coming. I think people expected him to be a lot better than he was, but it's just upsetting because the Red Sox, I do feel like as a whole, have so much potential, but now their weaknesses are being brought to light in terms of a pitching staff that's not as durable as they might have thought it was. All the errors, the offense not being able to hit. So things do need to change. Maybe Houck needs to change some things about his approach. Is he allergic to the Tampa Bay Rays? Probably. It just seems like he can't pitch against them. Now, granted, the ballpark that they were playing in last night is different because they're not actually playing in a real major league ballpark this year. So that definitely could be a factor. The Rays have had this first week plus of the season to get themselves acclimated to this new setup of a ballpark. The Red Sox were playing there for the first time, so that certainly could play a role in all of that. But in reality, at the end of the day, we can't keep making excuses because an excuse for a while was the weather and how brutally cold it was when the Red Sox were playing at home. Now there's this ballpark situation. There are so many excuses you could come up with in the book before you have to just say it's on the team. The team is not performing to the level that they need to perform at as a whole. And at the end of the day, what can you do about that? What is the solution? Guys need to play better. And that is where it really starts. But from a coaching standpoint, they need to be able to encourage these guys. And I think Tanner Houck needs better coaching to be able to adjust his game to get back to throwing at the level that we know that he is capable of because we've seen it from him many times in the past. So I don't know what's up with him. Something has to be figured out there because we cannot go through the rest of this season not being able to rely on Houck as a starter. We just can't. This rotation will not be able to be sustainable if he is not stepping up and performing. So that's a big thing moving forward that I'm going to be looking out for is Houck going to be able to start performing better because we really need him to. Coming up, who else is underachieving on this team? I'm going to be doing a little discussion on that. Basketball and hockey playoffs are heating up, and there's no better way to turn your sports knowledge into real rewards than with PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. With PrizePicks, you can simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports. Basketball, hockey, baseball, and more for your chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Here's what I'm picking this week. Luka Doncic for more than 28 points and Jason Tatum for more than 8 rebounds. Connor McDavid for more than 1 goal and Austin Matthews for more than 5 shots on goal. What I love is how easy it is to set up your lineup in under 60 seconds. PrizePicks even runs cool promos like Taco Tuesday, where they discount player projections up to 25% for even more value. And payouts are fast, safe, and secure. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. PrizePicks truly is such a fun way to play daily fantasy, and you can do it for so many different sports, so check that out today. Who's underachieving on this Boston Red Sox team right now? I've already discussed Tanner Houck, who certainly is somebody who falls into that category and absolutely has to be better. But who else on the team is performing at a worse level than Red Sox fans and the organization was hoping that they would? It's easy to automatically look at a guy like Trevor Story because defensively, he hasn't been making all the plays that he needs to make, but he's batting .308 with a .328 on base percentage, .477 slugging, .805 OPS, and a lot of other contributing factors: 3 home runs, 2 doubles, 8 RBIs, 7 runs, 2 walks, and 20 strikeouts. He has the 4th worst chase percentage with a 43.4% among major league hitters, and his advanced stats also aren't great. But we shouldn't write him off just yet because he actually has been a little bit of a bright spot offensively in a struggling offense. Obviously, another big problem with him is that he isn't always able to come up in the big moments, and he often puts together really poor at-bats during those times. But we shouldn't forget the fact that he has been somebody who has been hitting when a lot of the offense hasn't. And I have seen a lot of fans who have been calling for Marcelo Meyer to be called up. But the problem is he's 9 for 45, which is a 200 average with a 234 on base percentage, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 7 runs, 2 walks, and 11 strikeouts at AAA Worcester right now. So he's not exactly putting up the numbers that could get you confident in him coming up right now. And has Story's defense been great? No, and that's obviously a bit of a concern, but I wouldn't say that he's underachieving fully because I would say he's actually overachieving offensively based on what we've seen from him so far in his time in Boston. Then you look at Alex Bregman, who is batting .290 right now with 20 hits, 2 home runs over 69 at-bats, 8 runs scored, 12 RBIs, 1 stolen base, with a .342 on base percentage, .464 slugging, and .806 OPS. Now, he has definitely not been one of the worst players in the Red Sox lineup, but he has been pretty bad defensively, making his 5th error of the season in last night's game. And the throwing errors that come from him in the corner have been very frustrating to watch. And this is a guy who just won the Gold Glove at third base. So he should be performing better in that regard. From an offensive standpoint, definitely hasn't exploded yet. I feel like that could still happen. But if I'm looking at today right now, Bregman is definitely not adding the value to the Boston Red Sox that he really needs to be. I think when it comes to him and where he's at right now, he needs to be performing at a better level because the Red Sox acquiring him was the reason that they started being in playoff conversations when they went from being maybe a fringe wild card team to then having him now. And he hasn't stood out enough to the point where Red Sox fans and the organization can proudly say, wow, we have Alex Bregman. He makes such a difference on this team and makes us so much better, because he hasn't really made the Red Sox much better yet. So he's definitely somebody that I would throw into that underachieving category, a guy who needs to be doing a lot more when it comes to pulling his weight with this team, especially from a defensive standpoint, because the defensive miscues have been a problem and something that I've really been hoping was going to continue to be fixed. Triston Casas is another one. I mean, he hasn't really been able to get anything going offensively yet. And the biggest thing with Casas is that he is known for slow starts over the course of his career. He's somebody who historically has always started the season off slow. But still, I mean, this is a big year for him because the Red Sox first base situation could be a question mark. If he doesn't perform well this year, they might not feel like they want to keep him around longer term. And he really does need to get himself truly going offensively. I keep waiting for the big breakthrough from him that hasn't happened yet. So he's definitely somebody else who I would put in the underachieving category, and underachieving in regards to what we saw from him his rookie season and in the last month of the season last year when he returned from injury and he was able to contribute in a positive way, especially on offense. And it doesn't really seem like he's picked up from that this year. And this is exactly what I worried about with him, that he missed a lot of the season last year due to an injury. So he missed a lot of his development time after his rookie year. And now I feel like he's a little bit behind because of that and the fact that he hadn't been able to get as many reps in last year. So I really hope this doesn't become a problem in regards to his overall effectiveness moving forward. So he's definitely somebody else who also has to be better. Obviously, Garrett Crochet giving everything that we wanted from him so far, ace caliber performances. That's why the Red Sox made the trade. Walker Buehler definitely is also somebody who I would say is underachieving. There were question marks from him going into the season, but he is coming off of a really solid start last week. So I'm hoping that he is able to, in his next start, continue that hot streak and continue to pitch well and lock in, because I do think he could be a huge weapon for this team moving forward. But we definitely do need to see a little bit more from him. So lots of guys who just aren't performing up to the level that they need to be performing at right now. It's still early in the season, still plenty of time for the Red Sox to figure things out. But based on the performances that I have seen from this team so far this season, I am not happy with it overall. Lots of sloppy play, not executing the right way, and they just need to start figuring it out. Anyway, though, I do appreciate you tuning into Locked On Red Sox regardless and making it your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's a good time. It's a bunch of the Locked On MLB hosts that kind of talk about the latest happenings around baseball, me and some of the other people from the network. So be sure to make sure that you check that out next. Like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.